Well, welcome back to Brussels, where following last night's crisis talks, European Union leaders have agreed to a new Brexit timetable. The UK's exit from the European Union will be delayed until May the 22nd if Parliament passes the Prime Minister's withdrawal agreement. If MPs reject it and that deal for the third time, the UK will have until April the 12th to set out its next steps. A longer extension is only on offer if Britain takes part in the European Parliament elections, also due in May. And of course, if Britain doesn't come up with an alternative proposal by April the 12th, that will be no-deal Brexit Day. Well, joining me are three British MEPs, Daniel Dalton from the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrat Catherine Bearder, and Labour's Richard Corbett, the leader of the Labour group here in the European Parliament. Welcome to us all. Start with you, Mr Dalton. I mean, where do you think last night leaves Britain's Brexit progress?
Well, I think in some ways it makes it a little bit less of a cliff edge next week because we have two dates for potential leaving, one if the deal is done and one if it isn't done and we've got to go and find another path. So I think in some ways it reduces the cliff edge, but it doesn't change the basic options that are on the table, which are the deal, no deal or no Brexit, which have been the same for the last 6 months.
And what would your advice be to your Westminster colleagues?
Well, I think now's the time to back the deal, to be honest. I know many think it's not great, but ultimately it's the only deal on the table and it's the only way we ensure an orderly Brexit that delivers on the referendum result and can move us to the next stage. So if we want to avoid chaos that's coming, in my opinion, this is the only way we do it if the deal is back next week.
Catherine Bearder, where do you think it leaves us?
It buys us a bit more time and it gives us the opportunity to, and as they said, they're open to revoking Article 50 or having a referendum or some other form of plebiscite. And that means that revoking it means we can stop the clock and then decide on how we're going to proceed. And for me, people's vote is the obvious way of doing that. And if we revoke Article 50, that gives us time to do that. It does mean that we will have to have European elections, but I'm sure, you know, we're all up for that. We're representatives and we will do the job.
Well, I was going to ask you, if there are elections, you're going to stand again?
Yes, I will stand.
All right, OK.
Yes, I think so.
OK, Richard Corbett, where do you think this leaves us?
Well, as Dan, and indeed the Prime Minister has said, she said it's my deal, no deal or no Brexit. Parliament has already rejected her deal as a bad deal. It said it doesn't want no deal. So the only thing that's left out of her menu of options is no Brexit, it would seem to me.
Well, the one you don't mention is no-deal Brexit. And if Parliament can't agree, then there will be a no-deal Brexit. I mean, the March the 29th just becomes April the 12th.
Well, no, if the British Parliament has told her to avoid no deal, she has to avoid no deal, if necessary, by revocation. She can do that. Legally, Britain can change its mind and stop this whole thing with one single letter. We might still then debate it further about whether we want to resume this process, but it's dead easy to stop it if we want to.
Well, we've got pictures of the family photo of this morning's session. It should be said it's the family photo of 27. Mrs May didn't stay. Are you disappointed she didn't stay? I mean, this could have been a historic moment, the last time a British Prime Minister takes part in European Union deliberations.
Well, I mean, she was there for a long time with the
yeah, talking about us, not talking about Europe and the rest of the world.
I mean, the reality is the UK is leaving the EU. I think we need to recognise that. We took the decision nearly 3 years ago to leave the European Union. The debate we're having at the moment is how are we going to leave the European Union? How are we going to leave it in a way that gets popular support in Parliament and delivers on that result? And so, from my point of view, I think it's totally right. She was there for the part of the negotiations that were important to the UK last night, and then she left to let the EU do their deliberations going forward.
For me, as a Liberal Democrat, it's do we still want to leave the European Union? I mean, I think it's when we can see what's happening with the petition, we'll see tomorrow, the march, that how many people there are that have changed their mind. Lots and lots of people have changed their mind. It's OK to change your mind. And I think we need to ask the country again, do you still really want to lose our place at the top table where we've all been working? You were working well into the small hours on legislation that will affect people, 500 million people. And I think that is now that the public knows so much more about the European Union, I think it's sensible to say to them again, it is going to be unbelievably difficult to leave the European Union. It is going to damage our economy unbelievably, and that's not me saying that, that's the government saying that. It is perfectly justified to say, let's think again.
Is that the answer? A referendum basically to endorse or not revocation?
I think that's legitimate, given that Brexit is turning out to be so different from what was promised 3 years ago. It's actually Leave voters who are entitled to say, this isn't what we were told, that's not what we were promised, and it's damn well not what I voted for. There's a group I met recently called Remainers Now. They're people who voted Leave, who want a chance to reconsider because they say, what is being served up to us by the government is not what was promised.
But there are a lot of people...
You could actually go further and say, not to ask the people again is tantamount to saying to the public, you had your say 3 years ago, now you've got to shut up and accept whatever we come up with.
Yeah, but I do have to put it to you that there are a lot of people who feel very angry about this, that they feel that the majority, a clear majority, voted for Brexit and that politicians have somehow...
People are angry on both sides, Adam.
Yeah, no, I understand that, have somehow frustrated it. But, I mean, you all just said to me, if there are European Parliament elections, you'll stand. But are you not worried that Nigel Farage is going to mount his Brexit party? I mean, they could... I mean, they won European elections once before. I mean, they could win again, couldn't they?
It's up to the people.
It's up to the people who they return. I mean,
Yeah, but where would that leave us?
Parliament...
If the majority of British MEPs... You're saying that we want to remain. A majority of British MEPs are saying the public's outraged.
I don't think they will come back with a majority this time. I mean, most of them have left the UKIP anyway. They've all joined different groups.
They're not standing for
they're
UKIP. He's saying a new party called Brexit.
Another party. He can change his mind. The MPs in Westminster are supposed to change their mind. Why is it that the people can't? Look, we've all got work to do. I work on the environment and on human trafficking. They are only issues that we can deal with cross-border. They're an international issue. We need to deal with those across borders. We've got a lot of work to be done, and whatever happens about our membership, there is still work that we as MEPs need to be doing here.
I mean, Dan Dalton, I mean, if there are European elections, which you don't want, but part of the reason why you don't want it is because the Conservatives are really threatened in that, aren't they, if these other Brexit parties get going?
Well, no, I don't want them because we voted to leave 3 years ago. If we are now going to elect a new set of MEPs 3 years after the British people voted to leave, what message is that sending? I think, you know, we had that referendum, and Richard, you yourself said that it was a once-in-a-lifetime referendum. You know, I was on the Remain side, like you were, but we lost that. And I think we've got to accept we lost it. We've got to accept that it was more than just about the economy. It was about sovereignty.
But it was your Secretary of State for Brexit, David Davis, who said if a democracy cannot change its mind, it ceases to be a democracy. Yeah. That was your Secretary of State for Brexit who said that.
We need
and
to deliver the first
people will be very
referendum
angry if Brexit turns out to be completely different from what was promised and they are not allowed to confirm it or not. They can confirm it if they want.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned Secretaries of State because we're just hearing that the House of Commons is sitting today. Often they deal with private members' business and other things on a Friday, but the Speaker has accepted an urgent question on what happened last night. So MPs will be debating what's going on. And Richard Corbett, I mean, what is interesting about this, I don't know whether you'd agree, but it seems in both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party that, you know, normal party discipline has broken down. I mean, basically, it's everyone for himself when it comes to the Europe question.
Well, in the Conservative Party, there's been a long-standing civil war on the whole issue. In the Labour Party, it's more about different nuances about to handle this situation. I don't think they're quite comparable situations.
Whereas in the Lib Dems, we're absolutely certain that our best option is in here, and we are the pro-Remain party, and that is what we would be fighting any European elections.
But if Britain is not to leave on either of those two dates that have been laid down, that is going to require MPs to go well beyond what their party leaderships are proposing. As you say, in the Conservative Party, it's obviously going clearly against, but, you know, talking about revocation, talking about a second referendum, still things to which Jeremy Corbyn, who was here yesterday, is not signed up to.
No, has said again and again he backs the resolution adopted unanimously at Labour Party conference, which envisages the possibility of a public vote, i.e. a referendum. That is part of Labour Party policy. If that's the only way out of this mess, and it looks increasingly like it is the only way out of this total mess, then absolutely Labour is backing another referendum.
I mean, presumably you saw him yesterday and he saw Michel Barnier and all of that.
I see him every week.
I mean, it is being said that he indicated that he might be prepared to back this so-called Common Market 2.0 proposal. Do you know anything about that?
Well, logically, if Parliament says we don't want to leave without a deal, it's rejected the only deal that there is on the table, there are only two possibilities. See if you can find some alternative deal. He's been exploring that. Or changing our minds about Brexit. The possibility of an alternative deal depends on the Conservatives willing to pivot, to do something cross-party. That's just not looking as though it's happening.
I mean, you'd prefer to stop Brexit.
So revoking Brexit is increasingly the only way out of a complete disaster.
The normal way of doing referenda for Good Friday Agreement, when we first entered the European Union, was to do the deal and then put that deal to the public. The way we did it for the EU referendum this time was, do you want to stay or do you want to go somewhere else? And now we know where the somewhere else is.
Mr. Dalton, what do you reckon? What do you reckon the chances of this deal getting through are?
Look, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to pretend that it's going to get through. I think it's going to be tough. I mean, I hope it will get through. If it doesn't, then obviously we're in a different situation next week.
Thank you all very much indeed for that discussion. Well, this is All Out.